And the minute a lot of those guys realize that you are a student of the game and you really are serious about this and you're asking questions and taking notes, I will literally take notes from an older captain or a guy's about to give me a bunch of info. I'll pull out my phone and take notes or write it down on a notepad, and once they see that effort and that passion, they want to bring you along. If I had a kid come to me like that, I'd be the same way. Hey, this kid's got some potential. Let's try to get him a job. Let's try to get him on the boat. Let's try to do whatever. I think everybody can appreciate true passion like that, and I think everybody wants to support it.
That was Ollie Hussainy, lifelong fisherman, media whiz, and star and creator of the reality TV series Local Knowledge, which is all about fishing and the culture behind it. Lots more to hear from Ollie in this episode. Just keep on listening.
2, 3, 4.
Hey there, podcast people. John here, and you are listening to Season 2, Episode 7 of Make Moves. This episode features an interview with Ollie Hussainy. If you are just finding Make Moves for the first time because you're a fan of Ollie, welcome. Glad to have you. I hope you enjoy the listening experience. Please do remember to subscribe to the show on iTunes, and please do rate, review, and share it if you like it. You might be wondering, how did a guy who's all about fishing wind up on a podcast about creative risk takers? And to answer that, I need to give you a little bit of background. So here goes. When I was about 2, my dad took me fishing for the first time, and I just flipped out. I mean, that's all I thought about from ages 2 to 12. By the time I was 7, I had memorized the name of every fish in the Encyclopedia of Fishes. I watched every fishing show on the cable networks. All I wanted to do was fish. It's all I thought about. And it went that way until I was about 12 years old and I discovered girls and music. It really was the only thing I thought about until girls and music intervened in my life. In fact, after girls and music intervened, my first attempt at college, I was actually a marine science major and learned a ton about fish even at that age. But in any case, before the world got in my head and tried to tell me what it was that adults were supposed to do, I really just wanted to go fishing. I thought I wanted to be a fisherman for a living. I thought maybe I could be a deckhand on a fishing boat. I really didn't know how to do that, and I was young. And like I said, the world gets in your head and rearranges your mind a little bit. But that didn't happen for Ollie. Ollie grew up on the water. He loved fishing, and he somehow turned his skills of, being sort of a media mastermind and his love for fishing into what I consider to be the very best fishing show I've ever seen anywhere. He is the creator and one of the co-hosts of Local Knowledge, and him and his friend Rush go out on the oceans of the world, and they fish and uncover the fishing culture that is beneath fishing. And it is a remarkable show. It is visually arresting. It is probably one of the best produced fishing shows I've ever seen in my life. And when I heard about this guy, I thought, I've got to talk to Ollie. How did he turn this lifelong love of fishing into an actual career path? This guy is doing it, and I think you're really going to enjoy his interview. So I'm going to quiet down here for a little bit. I hope you'll turn on your ears. I'll check in with you about halfway through the episode, play a little bit of music. Even the music's about fishing. I think you're going to dig it. It's pretty fun. I'll also check in with you at the end of the show, share a few parting thoughts. Until then, happy listening, friends. I'll catch up with you on the other side. Hey, Ollie, thanks for coming on Make Moves, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's a pleasure. I'm just going to sort of warm the audience up here a little bit and tell them a little bit about who you are. You're based out of San Diego, correct?
That's right.
You are a fisherman, and you have been for a bazillion years.
Ever since I could walk, pretty much.
Yeah. You're a boat captain of your own. You're the president of BD Outdoors, which is the largest outdoor website on the net, which I believe grew out of Bloody Decks, which was the largest fishing forum on the net. Is that true?
Absolutely right.
Okay. And you are one of the co-hosts or co-star, I don't know how you call it, of the fishing show Local Knowledge. And that is a show where you and one of your best friends, Rush Maltz, a captain and fishing guide from the Florida Keys. You two go around the world fishing, discovering all kinds of new species and techniques and tackle. And most of all, this local knowledge and this fishing culture with like a capital C and all the places that you go. Those are sort of all the things that you're looking for. Did I describe the show fairly close?
Yeah, man, pretty much perfectly. For us traveling and fishing, the whole thing is finding that guy. And that's that local knowledge we're always looking for. If we go to a new area, we've never fished there before, we need to know the basics, where the good spots are, where you make bait, all that good stuff. And that's kind of what spawned it. I like to say when we go to Mexico, I've got a Mexican in every port. Right. And I have these buddies that get us lined up, man. You need a weird pump or a fitting or something, that guy can take care of it. You need to know where to get bait, that guy can handle it. And that's where that local knowledge really paves the way for some awesome trips.
So this is not a small show. I mean, it does not look like a homemade show or anything like that. This is like a real budget show. It's on Destination America channel. It's on every possible distribution platform, Apple TV, YouTube, Vimeo, Roku. Like, you can get it anywhere, right? This is a legit show.
Yeah, I mean, that was the idea. We didn't want to do like a regional show or any of that stuff. If we were going to do something, we wanted to do it right. And there is not a lot of good outdoor television out there right now. There's a few people doing it really well and a whole bunch of people that are not. And we definitely did not want to get lumped in with that group. And we're fortunate to have a really knowledgeable, young, aggressive team of guys that really poured their heart and soul into this and, made it happen. Really, it's all the crew is the ones who make that stuff happen. The production quality and the different angles. And I mean, these guys are doing stuff on a next level.
Yeah. Before I get off the blocks with more questions, I just have to say, oh shit, is this really your life? I mean, this is insane. You get to go around the world fishing with a buddy, and is it like this is what you do?
We're super, super fortunate, man. Nobody ever sees the hard work, of course, without selling and media kits and going to trade shows and all that stuff. You don't have a TV show. Everybody thinks you wake up every day, and the world's all rosy and you just run around and catch fish all over the place. But that couldn't be any farther from the truth. It's a job just like everything else. Unfortunately, I have like 5 other jobs, running different businesses and whatnot. So I stay very, very, very busy. I'm gone from my house about half the time, which is not always awesome. So we're very, very fortunate. We're totally living our dream. But, Rush is out there throwing that cast net every single day that he is not filming. He literally just takes Sundays off and he's fishing pretty much 200 to 250 days a year.
Wow. So, a little bit about the show. I guess the money shot of a fishing show is always fish and the beautiful, aesthetically pleasing shots of water and boats moving and all that. But, this cultural lens that captured your creative imagination, like a lot of that's kind of invisible, like this unknown knowledge stuff. How exactly do you show that in the show?
Man, I think that the things that make trips real special, after you've been fishing for a lot of years, it becomes to where it's not about the fish. In fact, we were talking about the other day, we're catching all these big giant bluefin here. And, it's a historic fishery. It hasn't happened in 100 years in San Diego. And we've been out there beating them up. And I haven't caught a single one this year. For me, it's more about the experience, hanging out with my friends, showing somebody their biggest tuna ever, their first big bluefin, whatever that may be. I think after a while, it really transcends just the fish, and it becomes about, the more important things in life, friends and adventure and travel. And, adventure is a word we use all the time, man. I'm always down for a good adventure. It doesn't have to be the biggest fish, doesn't have to be the best, but if we get a chance to go somewhere crazy, like, right now we're putting together a deal to go over and fish in Saudi Arabia. I don't know anybody who's done that. That's pretty awesome. It's something that we want to do.
I've never even heard of that as an option. Wow.
They have amazing fishing over there. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and Oman, that whole area, there's some unbelievable fishing over there. And there's nobody fishing it other than a few hardcore Arab guys over there, that have kind of figured it out. And they've got some badass boats, and they run around chasing these tunas and wahoo and sail a lot of sailfish. And now this guy that I'm talking to, he pioneered sword fishing over there, and he's been catching swordfish regularly for over 5 years.
Wow. So, I mean, you do this show with, a guy, your co-host Rush. You got a really different fishing background. You guys grew up, I guess, on different coasts, and I'm kind of wondering, what is the value of that on the show? I mean, I can think of some obvious things like you do things differently, and that's interesting to see. But what do you think the big value of having different viewpoints on the show is?
Just say the collection of experiences. Rush is a great fisherman, and he has not been fortunate to travel a lot. He kind of fishes because he has to. It's his job. I mean, he obviously loves it, or he wouldn't be doing it. But he's got millions of days, literally thousands of days on the water fishing in the Keys, over the last almost 30 years professionally. And so you can't discount the experience there that he has. And, the days on the water, that's what makes you a better angler, a better captain. He's got a lot of that. I haven't spent nearly as many days on the water because I have a real job, or had a real job, that wouldn't let me fish 5 or 6 days a week. But I've been fortunate enough to travel, make a lot of friends. I'm really a student of the game. I try to pay attention to a lot of the rigging and practices and what's going on around the world. And, we kind of combine our skill sets, and it works out pretty good.
Yeah. I want to come back and ask you actually a little bit. I mean, you do seem like a student of a lot of things. I'll come back and ask you about that in a second. I wanted to ask one more thing. You and Rush, you seem to be pretty good friends. I don't know how good of friends you are, but it seems to be pretty good. I'm wondering, do you think that you could learn all of this new stuff from Rush, or go out of your comfort zone and all of these crazy new fishing destinations if you didn't trust him and you didn't feel safe, maybe even looking like an idiot trying new things?
Man, that's the one thing that we both have in common. We've both been around enough to where we just don't care. Like, we tell the camera guys all the time, we do something stupid, use it. We don't. That's the reality of it. You're going to look like an idiot sometimes. Me throwing a cast net is absolute comedy, but I've done it enough now where I'm actually fairly proficient with it. And he doesn't mind looking like a fool casting a conventional reel, because that's the reality of a guy who came from Florida. I think a lot of shows, outdoor shows especially, the guy's trying to build himself up to be the man, and you're a badass and you never screw up or whatever. Oh my God. You go fishing with us for a day when the cameras aren't on, it's a constant circus. I mean, we're having a blast. We love fishing together, but nothing ever goes smooth, especially if you're supposed to be good at it,
Yeah. I think that's kind of interesting. This isn't really a question, but it's a commentary. I did a lot of fishing growing up in Southern California, and there's sort of a lot of dogma on the party boats. Everyone does it a certain way. And I sort of feel like when I started fishing alone, I had more liberty to try different stuff. And I got more excited about the stuff that I could find and the new techniques that if you're waiting for someone to show you, they won't. And if you're afraid to look stupid in front of a bunch of other guys, you don't try this stuff, and you just sort of don't discover the neat tricks. And I think it's cool that you guys are just out there doing things. So that's not really a question, but it's commentary because I think it's cool.
No. That was one of our goals with the show, was to dispel, guys in Florida will tell you always have to use a spinning rod. And that's not exactly true, but for the most part it is. And guys in California will tell you always have to use a conventional reel. And, that is absolutely true. Up until the last couple of years, guys would laugh at me for bringing a spinning rod on the boat. It's a better tool for certain jobs. And both of us, we've done this enough, and we know we're good at it. We know we're not. We don't have any problem with trying something new, trying different tackle, different rigging, and we steal tricks from each other constantly. Like, I'll notice him doing something on his rig or his boat or whatever. I'll bring that home and totally rip it off, and he'll do the same thing from us. We've got some better ways of doing things, and they've got some better ways. And Rush is more of a commercial fisherman mindset than maybe your glory fish Florida guy or whatever, the dude in the Columbia shirt and all that. And I'm a little bit more traveled in Florida guy than some of your hardcore Southern California flat brim and black socks type of guys. So right. We do a good job of meeting in the middle. And I mean, we are very good friends. We talk 3-4 times a week. I talk to him way more than I do pretty much anybody, and it's not just business stuff. It's just like, hey, what's going on? And he's got some fishing out there that I'm crazy about, and we've got some things out here. I mean, I can't leave the dock to go chase bluefin without him waiting for me to get back and give him a report on what we saw, what we did. He's fired up on our stuff because it's new. It's different for both of us. It's awesome. Yeah,
I actually saw, I don't know, I think it was maybe your last episode that was released about the 3 Bs where you and Rush went out and fished the local San Diego fishery. And you were showing him like the local fish and the kinds of what you could expect a day on the water. But I thought it was cool that you also were taking some of his tricks about a chum block and how you put that in the water. And that's not something you usually see out here. And I just thought that was cool. You guys were borrowing. And did that work, by the way?
Totally worked. The only problem was you just got covered up in mackerel. But other than that, and the thing, we were fishing anchovies on the chum block, and all we could catch was mackerel. But then we started fishing big horse sardines, and it was 3 to 5 pound calico bass, almost as fast as you could get them in the boat. It was awesome. In fact, after the cameras were off, him and I stayed there, and we hammered them for another hour and a half because we didn't want to leave.
That's cool.
Very cool.
A couple of quick questions maybe about tackle. I don't want to focus in too much on the very specifics of it, but there's been a lot of innovations in gear and new technology. And I think a lot of that's probably a good thing. Like you said, better tools for the job. But is there a downside to all of that new stuff? Or do you see any issues with all of this new stuff on the market?
No, man. I mean, the biggest challenge with fishing, especially on our side of the world here, we don't fish spots. We got to go find those fish in a 100-mile box by 100 miles. That's a lot of water to cover, and it's still, you got to find them. We don't just go to a spot and start catching them. And speaking to, mostly to offshore fishing, which is generally what I do. So there's still a lot of skill involved in it. And I think that's what pushes us. The better gear is great, makes it more fun. You can catch a bigger fish on a smaller rod, but it hasn't really changed anything from the basics of, needing to be alert, needing to know how to read your machines, needing to know, have good info and intel and go to the right places and do the right stuff at the right time. That's timeless. It's just, like you said, a better tool for the job. That's all.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what has stayed the same, but I think you just said it, so I don't need to ask now. There's all these new goodies and sort of the growth in the fishing market. Do you think the heart and soul of fishing, it sounds pretty healthy to you, or do you feel, does it feel different to you? You've been doing this your lifetime. Do you feel like it's different between guys now, or does it still feel about the same?
I don't know. I guess the feel is the same. I mean, I think if you're telling yourself, especially in California, that this is not a dying sport, you're lying to yourself. Uh-huh. Kids are not fishing like they were. And that's why with BD and, a lot of our stuff that we're involved in, I'm involved with the CCA and all that. We're trying to get as many kids fishing as we possibly can and get them stoked on it. And there's a lot of benefits to it. Kids that freaking frankly like to fish a lot don't have the money to go do drugs because you're blowing it all on tackle and trips, and that gives you a passion to where you don't have a bunch of free time on your hands to be out being a delinquent. It gives you something, a goal to go chase a bigger, better, whatever. But I think that's so important for our sport is we've got to get this next generation of guys. And just 5 years ago here in Southern California, fishing was horrible. And gas prices were through the roof, and everybody was, weathering the worst recession ever in the history of this country. Fishing took it on the nose, man. And then since then, we've had this El Nino rebound and all this, and fishing's cool again. I see kids fishing. I see young girls fishing. I mean, it just makes us so stoked to see our sport kind of back in the, on the front lines, and you're seeing all these bluefin caught on the local news, and people forget this town that I live in and grew up in was built on tuna fishing. We need to preserve that heritage and get the next generation out there enjoying it.
Yeah. What about all these environmental shifts? I mean, I feel lucky. I'm up the coast from you a couple 100 miles, and this year's been great. There's a lot of warm water, and there's a lot of bigger fish chasing bait fish. But I think some of that is El Nino, sort of a predictable change in current. But some of that might be environmental shift. Do you notice any of that in the water with changes in kelp? Is that good or bad for fishing, or what do you think about that in general?
I'm a firm believer in cycles, man. If you think that man can impact the environment over the course of 10 years, you're a fool, in my opinion. This is a very big world. It's been here for a very long time. There's no question, man, it's had a lot of impact on it, and a lot of that's been negative. There's no doubt at all. But if you think ocean currents and all this stuff's a result of global warming, you need to have your head examined. These are cycles, and these things happen in 1,000 and 10,000 and 100,000 year time frames. We're just seeing a little microcosm, of what happens. The world froze over once. I would imagine the world could get hot as heck, for a period as well. But I don't know. I'm just trying to enjoy it, and talking to a lot of the guys that I look up to, some of these older captains that are in their mid 60s and early 70s now, they've never seen anything like this. And we talk about it all the time. The book has been thrown out the window. And when I was younger fishing with these guys, they could kind of tell you what was going to happen next year and had a good handle on what the currents were going to do and what the next season was going to bring us. And all of them now, to a man, will tell you, never seen anything like this, have no idea what's going to happen. And I tell people the exact same thing. There are no rules anymore. We caught wahoo out of San Diego. That's ridiculous, Yeah. We jumped in and swam with a whale shark right out front here, 15 miles from the dock. I mean, wow, that's crazy. Wow. That stuff doesn't happen. So something's changed. There's no question. But, is it a result of man or any of this stuff? I don't think so. I think we're just enjoying a different kind of cycle. And we had these big bluefin 100 years ago. And last time they were here, it lasted for over a decade. So this might just be the cycle that we're back into, and it's a 100-year deal. Who knows, man? But I'm enjoying it while we can.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you're taking advantage of it. I've been doing more fishing while the fish are here. I got a couple of broad questions. You love fishing. You start as a kid, like you said, about when you could stand up or walk. I know a few people who've gone into fishing as a profession, and it sort of turns into hobby to maybe a deckhand. Maybe then people want to be a captain. You know, that's sort of a predictable pathway. And then you come along and you do all these things, but you are also, it seems like, somewhat of an internet whiz. And then you created a show. And I'm just starting to piece together in my mind that this is a crazy, unlikely set of skills that you would normally see in a guy who loves to fish. How did all that come together?
Man, I was very fortunate. I went to work for a video game company a lot of years ago. And I took an entry-level job, and I was like the fourth employee there. And by the time I'd left, we had gone public. We had 300 employees worldwide, 4 offices, and I got to do everything from drive the forklift to, meet with Sony PlayStation. And I just paid a lot of attention in between. There's a lot of very, very, very smart young people in that business, and I tried to absorb as much as I could. And then when we started doing BD as a hobby back in 2003, I just applied a lot of those same principles to marketing it, and always kept our brand premium, and never sold our brand out for $10 to the next guy. We always had people wanting to put our logo on junk and, make stuff like that. We never let that happen because we knew all we had was this brand and our traffic. And, we were able to somehow convert that. In 2009, Jason and I both quit our jobs. So what was that, 6 years after we started? We were able to quit our jobs and pursue this full time. And we haven't really looked back since.
Wow. Well, I mean, I guess I wanted to ask you what made you think that local knowledge, or BD Outdoors for that matter, what made you think it was possible in sort of the fishing world? It sounds like you had experience in different industries where you'd seen it work, but it hadn't really been done before. What did you feel like you're out on a limb there trying to pull it off, or did you just have a hunch it was going to work? Or?
It all just kind of came in phases. We started out with a forum in 2003 so we could share fishing info with guys that we knew and guys that we didn't know. It's a big area that we fish here out of San Diego. And if somebody can tell you, hey, I found him here yesterday and this is what worked, that's a huge leg up, And then what was just kind of built on the free flow of info. There was a couple of other fishing sites around that tried to censor people, and we wouldn't allow that at all. Fishermen are fishermen. They like to cuss. They like to act like children. A lot of these guys are doctors and lawyers, and this is their outlet for a couple hours a day. They get on our site and goof off. And we embrace that. We always kind of try to keep the theme of old school the movie. It's not in horrible taste, but it's funny, and everybody kind of loves that kind of stuff. And that was sort of how we tried to steer it. But at the end of the day, we let the community run it. And so we did that for a while, and fishing industry sort of noticed us, and people wanted to advertise with us, and we really didn't know what to make of that. But back in my video game days, I bought advertising, sat on the other side of the fence, so I understood that a little bit, and we put together a media kit, and next thing you know, we're kind of rolling, and then we hit a plateau because we were just a forum, and forum was a dirty word back then. Before Facebook, nobody wanted to know what your client had to say. They just wanted to push products at them with a smiley face, and now you had the ability to where a client could say, hey, I bought this reel, and it sucks. And here's why. And if somebody said that and it was founded, in other words, they weren't just hating on a brand or whatever, they had a real gripe, we would leave it up because that was our responsibility, keep a stream of reliable info. But then we're like, hey, why are these magazines selling all these ads and all this, and we can't attract those guys? Well, they were doing editorial content, and they were finding ways to support their articles, and they were doing tips and tricks, and they were showing you how to rig and all this other stuff that we really weren't doing. And that's where BD Outdoors came from. And kind of put an editorial wrapper around the forums, and it gave us a huge forum traffic that we were able to convert into, readership for our new project, which is basically an online magazine. And somewhere in there, we also realized that there was a market for premium fishing information in our area, and that's when we came up with Fish Dope. And that has been a huge hit for us. That's really one of our driving factors financially. And we really pride ourselves on getting people on the water and helping them catch fish, in the shortest amount of time without burning a bunch of fuel or wasting any energy. And that's been a huge thing for us. And then, we kind of working for a while, doing our thing. And then we ran into a kid that used to work for Jose Wahebe. And Jose was a good friend of ours. When Jose passed, our friend Mikey that worked for him was looking for a job. And he came, and I hired him to do a couple of projects for us that we did some development work for the state of Louisiana's fishery department. He killed it. We took him on a trip to PEI, and he produced a video from that trip that was probably the coolest thing that we've ever put out. I mean, it was amazing quality. I'd never seen anything like it. And I was like, this kid's got talent. We got to find some way to put something together. So I ended up hiring him, and, eventually he wanted to do a TV show of his own and kind of stand on his own 2 feet. And I was like, no, not interested. Don't want to mess with it. And then after a while, we kind of saw the business sense to it. And we're very fortunate in that we don't have to go cold call Costa. We have a relationship with them. We hang out with them. We're good friends, and we don't have to call AFCO. They're very close partners of ours and good friends. And so we were able to round up a bunch of core sponsors with little effort, that really trusted us. And now you've got a TV show, a forum, a magazine, a fish finding service. It just all kind of is a progression along the way.
Wow. It's really smart how it all came together. And I want to say that you had a lot of forethought, but it sounds like it came together in pieces, and you had the forethought to know that you could put the pieces together when they got there.
That's pretty much it, man, is having the confidence to do it, and then kind of not biting off more than we could chew. Sometimes anyway, we're kind of famous for that around here. But, if you're going to be aggressive, we call it the sweet sting of ambition. And sometimes you paint yourself into a corner where you're sitting there on a Sunday night at 1 a.m. working and wondering how the hell you got into this mess. But it's just been a progression. It's not like we started yesterday. We've got 14 and a half years now that we've been doing this either part-time or full-time. So it didn't happen overnight, but it's just been a really good progression for us. The TV show thing is something we don't have to do. The minute it's not fun, I won't do it anymore. I would love my crew. They're all like brothers. We love Rush. We all get along. We have tons of fun doing it. It's a lot of hard work that you never see. But, it's another thing that, we're in a position to be able to do it because we want to do it, not because we have to, which makes us very fortunate.
I love fishing so much it's indescribable. One look at me, bruh, it's undeniable. I got a file full of fish pics for days. On my page, all you gotta do is search Adam J. Getting paid while I sit back and slay these fish on waves and ships. And I ain't getting paid in tips. I'm paid to flip the script, writing pages in my book about the line and the hook and the bait getting took. On the lookout for...
All right, with permission, we are listening to Adam J., the freestyle fisherman. He loves rapping and he loves fishing, and I love that he's out there doing it. Swing by MakeMovesWithJohn.com, find the blog post for this episode, and I will share some links so you can learn about Adam J. Okay, happy listening.
All right, to the end of my time, as long as I got something on the other end of my line. I love fishing. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's what I do. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's what I do. See, everything about fishing is great. The word hate don't even correlate with dropping bait. I can't wait to get my bucket list of fish caught and kissed, then released into a watery mist. I'm in bliss when the big fish is landed. It feels outstanding. The sounds and sights of being outside standing under the stars, no cars or traffic lights. The sound a wave makes when it breaks makes for magic nights. I've been in nasty fights with hard hitters, and I'm ready for whenever that alligator gar or shark visits. I'm a shark wizard. I catch the biggest and the baddest, release the beast, watch them disappear like magic. I gotta have it, a reeling them up. I gotta have it, the feeling is love. A reel is a must have with mustard. I just ask for what I need. It's likely a circle hook, and look, it ain't size 3. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing.
What are some of the maybe few life lessons you think you only could have learned on the water?
Oh, man, I don't know. Being prepared is probably one of the biggest, just being prepared for anything that might pop up, whether that's fish or safety or whatever. And then the safety angle of things, too. I was kind of a younger guy, bulletproof, fly by the seat of my pants, didn't prep. That pump's still working. I'll deal with it later, even though it's only pumping half speed, stuff like that. You learn a lot real quick. It's very easy to die on the ocean. And if you're not prepared, you don't want to be a statistic. And, I think that's been a very valuable lesson for me.
Speaking of safety, I like to ask people about risk and how they feel about risk. I don't even necessarily mean, like bodily harm risk, although that might be a real thing for you. But, creatively, is there a risk to any of this? Is there anything that you're not sure about and you feel a little vulnerable about it? Or how do you think about that?
I'm pretty confident about that kind of stuff, man. I got a good feel in my little world for, I think, what'll work and what won't work. And so, TV show's a perfect example. It takes a lot of layout just to make a pilot. I mean, a huge chunk of money, like the chunk of money that people only make in a year, to get a pilot going and all that. I never batted an eye. I never had any question in my mind that we weren't going to be successful, and put out the best possible product. So when you know what you've kind of got to work with, I think experience gives you a good barometer for, this is something I should do, this is something I shouldn't. And not to say we haven't made mistakes. We've done some dumb crap along the way for sure. But for the most part, big projects and big picture stuff, we've been very fortunate that our success has been greatly dependent on our experience, and we've relied on that experience to kind of get us where we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. You said you're out on the road. I mean, it sounds like a couple of 100 days a year, maybe sometimes, or at least, out on the water. I don't want to ask specifics about your family or friends or your support network, but do you have a support network at home? I mean, are these people you lean on? Did you have to convince them that this was all a good idea? Or have you just sort of built your life around, I'm going to do this, and everyone in my life is going to have to just sort of go along with the fact that I'm nuts and I'm doing this?
I've got two things that allow me to do what I do: an awesome and very understanding wife who wants me to chase my dreams, and I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So those two things together makes it so that I can kind of do what I want to do when I want to do it. And, when I'm home, I'm 100% married, and I tell people I'm very good at being married. I'm an excellent husband. I don't go out drinking with my friends. I don't cheat. I'm not out being stupid or sneaking around or any of that kind of stuff. I'm home, and I love being home. And I think there's definitely an element of, when you're gone this much, just being home is awesome. And so, and it's funny because if I'm home for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, my wife starts to look at me like, hey, it's about time you went on a fishing trip or something. So it's a pretty good balance for both of us. I think she likes to read her book and chill out by the pool with her dog and drink a cold beer. And, she can't do that when I'm around because I never sit still. I can't do any of that. So I get to go out and do my fishing and hunting and all that sort of stuff. And she gets some quiet time with her dog, and it works out real well.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. I think listeners out there, I think they appreciate knowing that people like you are humans and you have lives. And I also think it's important that if they didn't appreciate it, they should know, because this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. So thanks for sharing that. I got just a couple of more questions, and then we'll wrap up here. I guess one question is, what's next for you? I mean, if it's not fun anymore, you said you'll stop, but could you go back to the life of not going to all these crazy places and fishing all the time?
Well, we were fortunate, man. We were doing a lot of this stuff just through the website, So no, hell no, I'm not done traveling and fishing, not by a long shot. There's still plenty of new species I'd like to meet, and quite a few I'd like to kill. Like that's not on our menu at all. It would just be, if the TV show gets to be too commercialized, too much work, too much stress on the family or whatever, I can totally walk away from it. That a lot of guys' identity is their show or their business or whatever. I'm not that guy at all. Like somebody comes along, makes me the right offer to buy out this mess of businesses or whatever we've accumulated here, I'll walk in a second for the right number. Like I think I've got a good handle on what's important in life, and it's family and friends and spending time outdoors, and the rest of that stuff's kind of all crap. It doesn't really matter to me. So, I don't know what's next. We kind of take opportunities as they come, and we've done a really good job of capturing fishing online. We've done a good job of representing it on television. What's the next medium? I don't know. We're always looking at new stuff and new projects and trying to stay a step ahead. But right now we don't have anything that's on the horizon where it's like the next thing we got to tackle. We've got a couple of big projects we're working on that I'm not ready to talk about yet, but all that stuff is very in line with what we're doing now. It's just an expansion of some of our current stuff that we're doing. But yeah, we'll see where it takes us, man. I'd like to get more involved in boating and that side of the business as well. I'm really passionate about boats and maintenance and being a captain and all that. So I think you'll probably see us hire an editor and focus more on that online. But for the most part, man, we'll just keep running our thing and keeping our eyes open.
Man, it sounds like you've got a lot of things figured out.
Not figured out, but we keep trying till we get it right.
Yeah, at least a good set of priorities to help you figure them out. I only have two questions, and one's an easy one. So I'll start with the hardest. Do you have any advice if there was someone out there who really loves something a lot, but they weren't there just wasn't a clear path for them to do that thing or to live that life, but they really loved it. What kind of advice would you give them? Someone say, a kid who really loved fishing or video games or whatever it is. You've turned this into a life.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I mean, from what I see, man, is if that's what you want to do and you want to do it, especially at a young age, set yourself up so you can pursue those things. If you want to get into a business that you're very passionate about and you love, odds are for first 10 years, you're not going to make a lot of money. So knocking out a family and getting married and having all that and then choosing to chase that stuff in a lot of ways just won't work. And it's not fair to your family. I think, if that's really something you want to do, I think you really need to determine that at a very young age, or work until you get to a position where you're kind of comfortable and you're not putting in those 60-hour weeks anymore, and then start it as a sideline and let's see where it takes it. But, for instance, if fishing is your thing, man, get in early, get yourself surrounded by the right guys, older established guys that have been doing this for a while. And I think in a lot of cases, especially fishing, you'd be amazed, man. Some of these old captains, nobody introduced me. I didn't know them for a million years or anything like that. I just had the opportunity to fish with them once or twice or bump into them at a trade show, get to talking. And the minute a lot of those guys realize that you are a student of the game and you really are serious about this and you're asking questions and taking notes, I will literally take notes from an older captain or a guy's about to give me a bunch of info. I'll pull out my phone and take notes or write it down on a notepad, and once they see that effort and that passion, they want to bring you along. If I had a kid come to me like that, I'd be the same way. Hey, this kid's got some potential. Let's try to get him a job. Let's try to get him on the boat. Let's try to do whatever. I think everybody can appreciate true passion like that. And I think everybody wants to support it. But if you think, for instance, you're going to, go dick off after high school and do nothing, and then all of a sudden you're going to be a boat captain and you're just going to start running your own charter boat and all that, that's not how this works. You got to put in your time. And just like we said to start this off, everybody sees all the fun stuff we're doing. Nobody sees me at ICAST in a monkey suit running around through 30 meetings trying to sell advertising and new sponsorships and all that. There's a very much a business side to everything you see, and it's not all fishing trips and high fives for sure. There's been a lot of ups as well as a lot of downs along the way.
Well, I'm glad you're out there doing the work because I get to enjoy your show, and it gives a lot of people something to aspire to. Where can listeners out there find out more about you and the show and all that? And I'll provide links in the blog post that goes along with this episode.
Yeah, any of our, major properties, localknowledge.tv, bdoutdoors.com. That'll also take you right to Bloody Decks if you want to see the forums. And then fishdope.com. That's kind of those are our three big properties. And get on there and kind of poke around if you're into fishing or you just kind of want to see what we built. There's plenty of content there for you to dig through.
Wow, thanks a bunch. I'm sure you'll get some hits and some curious people. Ollie, hey man, thanks for coming on the show. I hope to fish with you one day if I get down to San Diego or you get up towards my area, California. Until then, you take good care of yourself.
Thanks so much for having me, and yeah, look me up if you make it down this way.
Yeah, you be well.
All right, John. See you later.
All right, there you have it, everyone. This episode is coming to a close. Big thanks to Ali Hussainy for coming on the show. Listeners, I hope you will swing by MakeMovesWithJohn.com, find the blog post for this episode. You can follow links to learn more about Ollie, Local Knowledge, BD Outdoors. You can also get some links to find out more about Adam J., the freestyle fisherman, who featured a little music for us on our musical interlude. I really enjoyed this episode. I'm looking forward to bringing you another episode here in the next couple of days. Until then, please take good care of yourselves and go out there and make moves.